All right. Twist this around just a hair. Yeah, these were, in case some of you were saying, I couldn't handle going to Israel, it'd be too much of a strain, blah, blah, blah. Let me see here. That is Georgia. This is Ruby something, Ruby May, maybe? Ruby May was one that we had pictures of me and Ben. We always had her. What was the other lady's name? There was two of them. One had a cane. She was, I believe, in her 80s. And she walked with a cane. Ruby May had hip issues, and she made me hurt watching her walk. And so we always had one of them on an arm walking up these hills or doing whatever we had to do. Sometimes they couldn't handle some of the trails, but they were able to do pretty much everything. So if you've ever thought you want to go and you can't handle it, it is some rough terrain. There are some places that are very difficult, but yeah, they could do it, and they did. So yeah, that was two of the ladies that were on the trip. Now, we're going to see more of this picture next week. So if you want to see some good pictures next week, trust me, this fella, he was mean, and I didn't know it. And I love animals. I like, when I get home at night, too much information, I know. I like to have the pup jump up. He'll sit on my lap or two legs on my lap, and I'll just hold him and rub him, and he just loves it. And I love it. So I love holding an animal. And there's one where he's down on all squatting down, and I've got my arm around his head, and I've grabbed an ear, and I'm doing like this. And I still had dirty clothes in, so I probably smelled like him, but it was good. Anyways, that's not the pictures for tonight. So you win with that one. You've heard me say numerous times and talk about being in the old city. And when we went, we did things that probably weren't always the smartest to do. But it was fun, and I would do it again. But we would go through the old city, and it didn't matter what quarter it was. We were going through the Muslim quarters. We were going through the, there we go. So what we did, this was one of the guys, he had been there before. This is the son of the guy that helped me go, and that helped a number of people go. And so he had been there before, and you notice he's on his phone. He had the GPS and took us through all the gates. And we went all through Old City, just following this guy. Sometimes he got lost, but overall we did well. And this is the other guy that helped carry the two ladies around with me. So that was the Ben. But these gates, as you go in the Old City, none of this has to do with the Siloam, full of Siloam. This is just all extra pictures I was going to show you tonight. That these are what the gates are like, and they're still active in there. You notice they're constant. This is everywhere. Vendors, that's their livelihood. They'll set up a shop right on the side, and you walk by them and you buy. And they're everywhere. This is kind of like this is what a lot of it's like. It's if you want to get mugged, that's a good place to get it. And remember I told you about some of these corners, the little kids came running around and they ran into Chris. That's Chris, the guy they didn't run into. He's the 6'7" guy. And this is like the corner would have been as they came tearing around, and they met him in the alleyway. So it was good. I get a lot of pictures from behind. And what was happening, I was so busy taking pictures, it was a common phrase to hear, hurry up, Rick. Rick, come on, don't get lost. So, but this is what it was like, just little alleyways everywhere. And one of the things that shocked me, yes, out of focus, I'm sorry. Sometimes you ran into some lights, but notice, see which gate was this? This one is the north gate. You don't see much happening at the north. You don't hear much of it, but this was on the north side. And they have like these plazas where people just hang out here all the time. It's beautiful. But that's going in on the north, I believe northeast corner, maybe northwest. This one I took because we had like a 20-floor hotel. We were in a nice hotel, all the good places. This is one of the hotels that was down in the old quarter. We were laughing. I would not have wanted to stay in that place. It was gross looking, but it was a hotel that was functioning. And I did see, and you're going to see next week, I think, Hezekiah's wall, where it is. And right when we took that picture, right behind us was a room in the old city for sale. It's overlooking Hezekiah's wall. And when you buy a house, a place in the wall, you're looking at millions. And it is not something you're buying for the location and for the privilege of living in Old City. And so this is a very desirable place for a lot of people. But yeah, I had to get that one. This was in one of the alleyways. I don't know if you can see that or not. Santa's, Jerusalem Santa, Holy Land. That was in that's one of the villages. Here's the car park, and that car was barely able to get down this road. That just tells you what it's like. Santa has a very small workshop there. At the front of the car, you had this. Wishes the world a Merry Christmas. So, Old Town Jerusalem, go figure. And I don't remember the gate this was, but it had like kind of like a moat going around it. Just huge places. They were beautiful to see. Vendors, again, all up and down these streets. And there was one, I'm pretty sure this is the place, that right around down in this area, went to a shop and there was t-shirts. He said $10. Okay, I figured I'm seeing vendors all, well, they were up over here. So I went to the next one, $15. That's too much. $10. Went up 2 more. Same t-shirts, $20. That's too much. $15. Help my family. No, it's too much. $10. Everybody came down to 10. So, but it was interesting. It was. These are the places we walked during the night, and that's the moat. But at a door, so it couldn't have been a real moat. I got this one to see the height up through here. This is Jaffa Gate, and you get to see just the size of it. Again, Chris is 6'7". He happened to be there, but it gives you an idea of the height of this place. And just these I enjoyed seeing. One shop had all of the schools from America. This one? That's yours? Oh, I didn't know I got yours. So I recognize Duke, Ohio, Bama I had to get. I had to get Bama. Clemson's in here. There they are. And all this is the Hebrew. Clemson University. Carolina, better than Clemson. This I took for fun. So some of the husbands might enjoy that. Would Max and Jim like this? No. You wouldn't like that? Okay. There's another. That's you guys. I like this one. This one was good. Don't worry, America. Israel's behind you. I like that. So, and Pete, I was thinking of you. When I saw that one. Anyways, these are just some of the gates, and it was really beautiful. This is outside of it, going across and into the gate. Just seeing the old foundation that is original. This was there, and a lot of it you can tell this is reconstructed. A lot of it is reconstructed, but it was just beautiful to go around at night and see these different areas. And they had a lot of these courtyards set up just so we could go out and hang out and see these walls. So it was very much worth seeing. So tonight, what we're going to see is this pool of Siloam. Siloam had another name. Do you remember the name used in the Old Testament? Huh? Not quite. Close though. Close. The Siloam. So same place. So this pool is something. There was a really famous thing that I forgot this morning as we were looking, as my notes were coming up for the PowerPoint. There was a picture. Did any of you notice that? Yeah. Okay, that was what I was going to say. This is what's coming up tonight. So what was it? Nope. It's like a what? Very close to a hallway. It was solid rock. So what do we know that happened with solid rock that made a pathway, and it had something to do with the pool of Siloam? Hezekiah's tunnel. Now we've seen something like that. You remember when we looked? Oh, don't do this. I'm thinking of the place. I just forgot the name. We looked at the one place where they were going to be sieged, and they dug out in the rock. They chiseled out rock, made this huge cistern, and went through the rock and then up the other side, and they had a water coming in and filling the cistern. That's exactly what Hezekiah's tunnel did. Hezekiah's tunnel, I mean, think about this. If you're in a city and you're going to be sieged by an opposing force, what do you need to have with you in that city? You better have water. You better have some kind of food source. You want to have some weapons to defend yourself or to shoot, but you want to have, if you don't have water, you're dead in 3 days. You can't hang in there. They had to have that pool. They had to have this tunnel, and Hezekiah did it. That's probably, who has the passage for 2 Kings 20:20? Okay, go ahead and read that one.
The rest of the acts of
Okay, so this, we don't know much about Hezekiah's tunnel, but we do know this. They started at two ends and they dug. I can't imagine this. They dug roughly 1,700 plus feet, and they met. They somehow met at the right place, dug this tunnel. That's about 1/3 of a mile that they dug to make Hezekiah's tunnel. Hezekiah's tunnel, they started at the Gihon Springs, and it dug through and it got to the pool of Siloam. And that was the reservoir, if you will, where it was coming in. It was a natural spring. Now, they have not found the original when Hezekiah dug and they had that pool. That one hasn't been found. This one was found 04, and it's from Herod's time. So this is Jesus' time, Herod's temple. But this one was found, and his was extremely ornate. The place that we saw that other one was Megiddo. We saw that other tunnel that was dug at Megiddo. So this is one of the things it was known for. Now, who has Nehemiah 3:15? Okay, read that for us, please.
But the gate of the fountain was here Siloam, the son of the ruler of part of Mizpah. He built it and covered it and set up the doors thereof, the locks thereof, and the bars thereof, and the wall of the pool of Siloam by the king's garden, and unto the stairs that go down from the city of David.
Okay, so that the temple area, Jerusalem, had been destroyed by Babylonians. That was around 600. Then when Nehemiah comes back, that's around 150 years later, they rebuilt this pool. Now that's the one that hasn't been found, because Herod rebuilt this one, and he rebuilt everything really big and very ornate and all of that. So history tells us that when Herod built his, that pool had arches around it. He just made it really fancy. He was an extremely good builder. Now here's what happens though. During the feast time, you would have a priest. And we're going to see a picture of where he would have gone in a minute. But he would have taken a golden, not a censer, a pitcher, and he would go from the temple, and I would say roughly half mile, 3/4 of a mile, he would go down this wide road, go down to the pool of Siloam, get a pitcher full, take it back up, and it was part of the sacrifice. And that was part of their ritual, part of the cleansing ritual. And as you remember when we were talking about coming into Jerusalem, one of the things they always did as they were ascending into Jerusalem is they would chant what? You remember? They repeated it over and over. The Psalms of Ascent. Psalm 113 to Psalm 118, as they're coming up to Jerusalem. as the priest was coming up from this pool and climbing those stairs up back up to the temple, they'd be doing the Psalms of Ascent the whole time. That was just a common thing they did. He would do that for 7 days. But on the 8th day, on that day, the 8th day of this feast, this didn't happen. Now, that's special because what Jesus does, that's when he makes he gives us some verses that happen on that 8th day when the water wasn't being carried up. So let's look at that. John 7, 37 to 39. Who has that one?
In the last day, that great day of Jesus stood by saying, that believeth on me, that we want to receive the Holy Ghost is given.
So Jesus' water was better. What he's offering is better than any kind of a sacrificial ritual cleansing. He's offering life. What's coming out of him is going to give people true life. And he is identifying, while he's here with the Jews, he's identifying as the rock that led them out. He was the rock that provided for them. He was the rock that provided this water. He's making it clear. He is deity. He is God come in the flesh. Who has Revelation 22:17?
And the Spirit and the bride say, come, and let him that heareth say, come, and let him that is athirst come, and whosoever will, let him take the water of life freely.
So with that water that Jesus offers, free gift, it's open, we receive, we don't earn, it's a gift that he is offering it to people. Jesus is the one, and he's making that claim very clear. He is the one who can provide, who can meet our needs, that spiritual thirst. Now these pictures here, these are one of the possibilities of a original. This is not Hezekiah. This is another tavern that was going in, that was found, and I'm not exactly sure where that came from and where that came in, but it was for me, it was just an interesting shot to get in. This is where some of the water would have a way in. Okay, let's stop this just a second. Come on, there we go. Okay, we're at Hezekiah's spring, or Hezekiah's tunnel at this place. Is that on? Yes. Can you see it? The blue light? Okay. Something is not giving me volume. Let's try this again. Oh. Yeah. Pete, I may need some help on this again. I'm sorry. See if that does better. No. Which speaker should I be hitting? Because I had it on a real tech. Not there. Real tech. You saying the system is on soon.
Oh, this is on Zoom, isn't it? Okay, so you want to do
Well,
like same?
I guess it shouldn't matter. It should be going to these speakers right now.
Oh, okay. Well, that's for Zoom. You want to do it down here.
Okay. Okay.
Doesn't see him. Here.
There, okay. Thank you. I apologize about that. We were stopped where? Go here. Okay, this should work. Good.
You got that, you gotta hit the speaker button on.
Stop telling me what to do. You're right. There, now we'll go back to it. Okay, we're good now. Thank you, Mike. It's decent. We didn't get to walk in. That bothered me. So next. That one's Hezekiah's tunnel. And that's flowing down this way, down towards the pool of Siloam. So that's where it came from. What was your question?
How far down was it before you got this tank? What? Was it like elevated or was it right?
No, we were, I mean, I could have reached down and hit it as close. But yeah, to get down to it. Now you notice these pillars, and you'll see a little bit more. Okay, that's going into the tunnel. That's the picture you saw this morning. This is where they chiseled out through this rock. And for me, when I think chiseling out through a rock to go and make a tunnel, I'm gonna chisel just a little bit to let water come through. We didn't get offered to hike through this. I would have loved to have hiked through that thing, but they chiseled this huge corridor out, and it was an amazing feat. But that was the tunnel. Now these were right on, as the water was coming right through here, right underneath this. This is where in the Turkish times they had built a church over, thinking this was the pool of Siloam. This right out of the cave, out of the tunnel, there was that waterway. They thought that was the pool of Siloam, and they built this church there, and it wasn't. They were wrong, but you can still see the remains of this church with the pillars there, and that's not yet. Okay, I'll get to that in just a second. So you can still see the remains where they thought that place was the pool of Siloam. So this, I'm going to go ahead and go through these, but this flooring that was around there was not from the time of Christ. This was from about 135 the year 135, and it's very similar. It's only 100 years after. You're going to see a lot of shapes and a lot of things built into the floor. And what would happen is the Roman guards used these. They had games set up on it. They would do things on the floor to entertain themselves because they were bored. But there's a lot of the flooring that was from that time period.
Soldiers, but another picture gives you an idea of what it was like during Christ's time. This is only 100 years later. Some things they do, some of the
Obviously, you can see where it stopped. These are some still pictures. I don't remember what this one was. That might have been, if I'm remembering right, it was hard to see, but that circle with the Jerusalem cross, we had the cross and the four definite sign of Christianity around. That may have been that one, is what I'm trying to remember. I believe it was. But just different ways they had set up. These were games that they had played in the day, and just they had that set up in that time period.
what we're seeing here.
This is what the biggest thing I wanted you to see for tonight with New Testament wise. It's a drawing that someone has set up using the topography. And keep in mind, when this road between the pool of Siloam and going up to the temple, you would have 3 feasts a year. They had to use this was a major purification and a ritual bath, and they would use this with things at the temple. So this was a major importance. So this road that Herod had built going from the pool up to the temple was a massive, it was a big road. It would hold millions, because millions would show up. It was a big deal. So this should be a little bit of a help.
Here's the drawing. This is the pool of Siloam. We're looking at right over here. This road, these steps that we're going up here in order to go up to the temple. These steps here are right here. These are the original steps. This section's not been open for 6-7 years. We were from the first, they say, to get in here. So these steps are the ones that they would, and I'll show you in a second. These steps are the ones that are coming up here, and the drainage that comes down this way goes under these steps and keeps filling this pool as it rains.
For me, that was exciting to be able to see all of these stones that were there in their original. These are the stones that Herod had laid that Jesus would have walked up from that pool up to the temple. Jesus would have walked these. The disciples would have walked these. But for me, that was an exciting thing to watch. Now, if you look at here's just the picture. The tunnel, for Hezekiah's tunnel, came out somewhere in this area, and it started, well, forget the mouse. It started over, Gihon Springs is somewhere in this area. I don't know exactly where it's at, but it's in that vicinity, about 1/3 of a mile. It cuts through under all of this mess, under all this rock, and these out into this area. And then this drainage also comes down into the pool. So the pool is this would have been the place where Jesus would have cleansed himself, pure, the ritual cleansing. It's the place the disciples would have been. Let me just go over a couple of more of these. Okay, this one is at the pool. This is the edge of it. Remember, I pointed at the left-hand side. When I was doing the video, I pointed at the left hand. It was the right hand. Now these, you can see the steps that were coming down, the bottom of the pool that would have been in. Now the estimates that I'm hearing is that pool was roughly like 2 Olympic-sized pools. It was massive. But you notice this is all they've got. This little bitty area, and then they got a wall here. This land is owned by one of the religious groups, so they wouldn't turn their land loose to let Israel dig. So the dig stopped at the edge of the property line. So if they kept going, they're going to keep finding more and more of this pool, but land's at a premium. People won't let their land go. But that's what was going. That's what it would have looked like, having the pool. Now, what do we know happened at this pool? New Testament. Lame man was at one of the pools. I don't know if it was this one. There was a blind man for sure. We're going to read about this one because that was a huge thing that had happened. Let's look at John chapter 9. 3 of you have that passage. It's 1 through 11, 35 to 41. Who has those? Okay, who has 1 through 11? 1 through 5, 6 through 11. So let's go ahead and read all 3 of those in order.
And as Jesus passed by, he saw a man which was blind from his birth. And his disciples asked him, saying, Master, who did sin, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? Jesus answered, neither hath this man sinned, nor his parents, but that the works of God should be made manifest. I must work the works of him that sent me while it is day. The night cometh when no man can work. As long as I am in the world, I am the light of the world.
Having said these things, he spat on the ground and made mud with the saliva. Then he anointed the man's eyes with the mud and said to him, Go wash in the pool of Siloam, which means sent. So he went and washed and came back seeing. The neighbors and those who had seen him before as a beggar were saying, "Is this not the man who used to sit and beg?" Some said, "It is he." Others said, "No, but he is like him." He kept saying, "I am the man." So they said to him, "Then how were your eyes open?" He answered, "The man called Jesus made mud and anointed my eyes and said to me, 'Go to Siloam and wash.' So I went and washed and received my sight."
Jesus heard that they had cast him out, and when he had found him, he said to him, "Do you believe in the Son of God?" He answered and said, "Who is he, Lord, that I may believe in him?" And Jesus said to him, "You have both seen him, and it is he who is talking with you." Then he said, "Lord, I believe." And he worshipped him. And Jesus said, "For judgment I have come into this world, that those who do not see me may see, and that those who see may be made blind." Then some of the Pharisees who were with him heard these words and said to him, "Are you blind also?" Jesus said to them, "If you were blind, you would have no sin. But now you say, 'We see.' Therefore your sin remains."
So Jesus, and several things happened here. Jesus healed a blind man. Why is that so important? There's a specific reason that's important.
Like an unbeliever.
Hmm?
I'm thinking of an unbeliever being blinded to living water in a sense.
As a picture.
Yeah.
Okay, it's definitely a picture. What else?
This is one of the prophecies. He would open the eyes of the blind.
Yes. The Messiah would open the eyes of the blind, he would heal the lame, he would show the miracles. Jesus is showing so clear that he is Messiah. This is an outward statement. Notice in one of the things that stood out was verse 35. Nope, not verse 35. Some of the Pharisees which were with him heard these words. When I think about Jesus talking to this blind man, kind of what I used to have in my mind was, let's pull this blind guy, ex-blind guy aside, let's talk with him. And he had this private conversation. He's having a very blunt, outward, public conversation saying, "I'm the Messiah." The Pharisees were hearing him. People were hearing and they were angry at him. He was doing nothing at all in private. He was openly publicizing and claiming to be the Messiah. And that's an important thing. That's why they hated him. He made this outward claim. Now, there was two things at this place that we saw. One was the pool, which we've seen here. One was the stair steps that we pointed to earlier. Now, with those steps, one of the things that was enjoyable to look at, you'll notice the stairs going up, but you notice these green glass things here. They built where there were holes. They built those in, and they found this is not solid ground under this thing. There is a huge drainage tunnel system that you can walk. I mean, the big guy, Chris, could have walked through that system. There's a huge tunnel underneath this. They found artifacts under it, and that's what all of these things are. We'll see this in just a sec. This one, I stole this picture. Chris, when we were we stopped at his church on the way back from our vacation. This is something he had put in, asking people, what is it? Anybody want to take a guess other than my family? What this right there is? Okay.
Flower.
What it looks like. This is in a rock, right?
Vent for the aqueduct,
Very close to a vent. What?
the vent for the aqueduct that would allow it to breathe.
I guess it would allow it to breathe, but what if it's going to breathe? What else is going to happen?
Smoke.
Oh, it's gonna let water fall down into it.
It's a drain. Think about, I mean, we think about, oh, we're so advanced. We do everything so well around here. This was 2,000 years ago plus that this place was built, and they were building drainage systems. They had that whole tunnel flowing down and going into this pool to keep it filled. These people were smart, and they knew what they were doing. So this is just one of the drainage systems that was in the pool or in that road that we were walking on. This is one of those green things, those you walk on it, but they had some of the things they had found. I tried to get a picture. It's hard to get depth, but you can see this is right at the top. This is about 7 feet down. That's walkway. This other one might be better.
And drainage systems over these, the original stones going down to the pool of Siloam to keep it filled up. So these are the original stones going further back up to the temple.
So those steps will be heading up to the temple, and that other one's going down to the pool of Siloam.
But pulling it up, you're not falling down that. It's just bridge across.
Yeah, bridge, I'm guessing, I didn't go under, I'm guessing they would have had stone supports that held how, I don't know. But they were good. Those guys knew how to build. They did a good job with it. So this is heading back out. So this would be the edge of the temple or the wall of the old city. And this was the pool right through here. And again, huge pool, but it was, Jesus used that to have that man go down to wash himself and to be healed. So that is the pool of Siloam. Now, what is sad in my mind is that these people were looking for Messiah. They were actively desiring their Messiah to come. Their idea was they wanted Messiah to come and kill the Romans. They wanted the Romans ousted. They wanted to be in control. They wanted deliverance. They're looking for Messiah, but Jesus comes. And at that spot right there, Jesus had a blind man healed that only God could do. You don't heal blind people. And Jesus did it. Jesus showed he was fulfilling the prophecy. He healed that man. And this is not the first time. We know from the scriptures, he could have shut down hospitals, so to speak, today. He was healing people left and right. People knew what he was doing so much that the Pharisees were saying, you're doing this by the power of what? Yeah. They knew what he was doing. They're looking for a Messiah. He came, he proved who he was, and he had just done it in that spot. And here's the problem. They refused to submit. They refused to receive. They had the option of receiving him. You remember when Jesus was sitting, it would have been across the other direction from this place. Jesus sat on the Mount of Olives and he wept. He cried and he said, how often I wanted you to come to me. I will. It was my will, my desire that you receive me as your Messiah, and I'm paraphrasing, you refused me. You would not submit to me. And it grieved him. Is that not what he's doing? I mean, we got the same God today. He's not willing that any should perish. And what are people doing constantly today? Rejecting him, refusing to receive Jesus. And that's easy to see with unsaved people. Do we not do this sometimes? When Jesus is convicting us of sin and we get in our pig heads that's probably not the right word to use. When we have it in our minds that we're going to do what we want to do, and we think we know what's best for us, and we believe that this really is going to make me happy and satisfy me, so I'm going after this same thing that God says don't, we're grieving the Holy Spirit. Shame on us. We've been saved to walk with him, to follow him. Now I got ahead of myself a little bit, so let me back up. What are some truths we learned from this? From this place that we've seen, I have several truths written down that we can pull from. Anything stand out?
reminder of the prophecy that was fulfilled that Jesus came to heal the blind.
Absolutely. Do we have a God who is faithful? Do we have a God who keeps his promises? Think about what the promises of God. God promised that Messiah would come from where? What line? The line of David. The Messiah was going to come through the Jewish people. He was going to keep that nation alive. And all during this time period, you've got the Babylonians coming in, the Assyrians coming in, the Jews are just getting wiped out left and right. You got after AD 70, the Jews are dispersed all over the world. In reality, the Jews shouldn't even be a people today. They should have been assimilated into whatever countries they were sent. That was the goal, is to wipe out the Jewish people. We see that in our century, so to speak.
Yeah, in the study that I think Pete did, it got down, was one of the kings, literally got down to one king that was remaining, that was the line of David. The baby.
Oh, yeah.
Crazy.
But what does it tell us?
God's in control.
God is totally in control. All of this stuff, and I don't know about you, and I get it. You see things going so. Some people were talking about it tonight. We get so frustrated. I get frustrated seeing how foolish people are today, doing dumb things. Vote. I mean, this is the way the votes are going. Where are your brains? What are you doing? Is God sitting in heaven all frustrated? He knows exactly what he's doing, and he can work in sinful circumstances. It's going to be good. He wants us to be faithful in this hard time. That's his expectation. He's faithful. We can trust him. That's good. What else?
Like how the tunnel say God doesn't give us more than we can handle. He provided a way out.
I didn't think of that. That's good.
Hezekiah.
That's good. I would, if you had told me, we gotta get water in here, and it's a third of a mile through that rock, I'd have laughed at you. There's no way.
I hear.
God help.
Appreciated the ritual of going down and getting the water, and on that day when they wouldn't have, Jesus standing up and saying, "Any man thirst, come to me." I don't know, there's a lot to worry about if you're a city, you need water, you gotta have water. You can have great fortifications, great walls, without water, you're nothing. And
Oh, that's good.
you know,
Yeah.
the same with religion. We can have all these walls that look good and structure and organization and things, but we don't have life in what we have. We don't have Christ to satisfy us, to actually sell our thirst. Religion is vain. We've got an empty, dry bone city, that can't sustain life.
Excellent point. Excellent. Anyone else? Those are good. I like that Jesus, when he was there, and he does the same today, when he was there, Jesus revealed everything they needed to see. He fulfilled prophecies. He revealed himself. He opened himself up so that they could see this is the Messiah. He showed them what they needed to see so that they could make a decision to follow him. And Jesus has done the same. He has revealed everything we need to have confidence. And he does this continually so that we can put our faith in him. It's not a blind faith. He has revealed truth about himself. How dare us not trust him in our daily lives after he's revealed so much to us, after he's shown his faithfulness. It brings judgment on the unsaved. We know this. As the unsaved reject, they get judgment. As we reject, our fellowship just gets broke. Our joy gets broke. Yes.
Just I love stuff that's like John MacArthur will address the disciples. You know, you have little belief disciples, you know, and just how he kind of jokingly goes about it. These guys will really see him. The Acts and Peter's still denying him 3 times later on. I mean, do you see that this is the work of the Holy Spirit? I mean, some of these guys are witnessing the work performed by Christ, and they couldn't believe. That's just pretty powerful.
It is, it is. That one for me takes that verse, to whom much is given, much should be required. And yes, the disciples, they chose to follow. They should have. Wonderful thing, I get it. Think of the judgment on the Pharisees, who literally watched pretty much all of this same stuff. They observed it and they said, "You're of the devil." And they did the works of God.
They knew the book.
They did. They knew all the prophecies. Okay, now let's bring it to us. Some of us were raised with the Bible in our hands. Some of us were raised knowing truth, and yet people, I say us, some people were raised knowing truth and they reject. They decide, they count the cost, and Jesus isn't worth it. What I want is worth it. And what do Christians do? We do some of the same things. We know truth. We count the cost of following Jesus, and we say, "Yeah, I don't think so. This is better. I need to concentrate on my bank account. I need to concentrate on my pleasures." We need to be careful. And one last thing, we are not always going to understand God's ways. Period. We're not going to get it. Does it make any sense to you? It makes no sense to me. Some of the commentators I've read made no sense to them. Why did Jesus have to put spit on the ground and put mud on the guy's eyes? Why couldn't he just say, "Be healed"? He could. But he chose to have him go down to this ritual pool. Now that pool was known, some of the rabbis called that pool Messiah's pool. But he chose to do it his way. He had his reasons. I don't know what they are. We can guess at it. But he had his reasons. We can just follow him.
Dust, man.
Yeah. Could be. Man was made out of dust, and he's going right back to the beginning.
Exactly what came to my mind, so that man was actually made out of dust, clay. Yeah. So he used his little building blocks that he used.
Yeah.
They never gave it to you back then, I'll give it to you now.
And it's not the first time he did that. He did that another point in time. But you know, he has his reasons. He does what he's going to do. But we just got to remember, our God is worthy to be trusted. We should follow him.
It was a visual act.
Yes, yes. And carry that one step further. The visual act part, it was a physical, I'm going away from the visual for a second. The man that was blind, he had something he had to go do, the visual. He physically had to do something, so to speak. But it was a definite visual for all, because he wasn't doing this privately. This was a major public thoroughfare.
Imagine how many people after probably took dirt and tried to rub in people's eyes.
So what we're seeing,
Oh my, yes. So look at this picture. This is just an artist drawing. This is what they anticipate. Think of all of these thousands of people. Now, when Jesus, chapter 8 is when they ran him out. They pushed Jesus out. He had been at the temple, run him out. Jesus came out and he meets this guy. That makes total sense. The man was probably up at the temple. He's asking for alms as people walk into the temple. He sees the man somewhere up in here. And he says, "Okay, here's this spit. Here's this mud. I'm going to put it on your eyes. You go down this, let's say, half mile, 3/4 of a mile. You do this and you go down here." But when he's up here talking, he's not in private. There's people all around him. He's already a target. Pharisees are everywhere. They're gonna be watching him, and he makes that visual. Here's this. And you can imagine the hubbub going on and just the turmoil. And people would have probably said, oh, I'm gonna see this one, and they may have helped him get down there, but he did everything very publicly. Yes,
Think about it too, he had to have a faith to do what he told,
the blind man,
go down.
absolutely, absolutely. And he was confused. At the end, tell me who he is, I worship him, I don't know. There was still some confusion, he acted on what he knew to do.
To back up what Al said, that showed that, belief or faith comes before repentance. Because he did not repent until he got back up to Jesus.
There was at least a measure of it. At least a measure of it, that's good. So I hope this gives you some points, if you leave with nothing else, leave with this. Our Lord showed himself openly. Our Lord deserves to be followed, and it's not an option. This is not a thing of, it'd be a good thing if you follow Jesus with your life. Well, yeah, it would be, but you're commanded. There is no option not to follow Jesus. When you're his servant, when you say I've received him, you are to follow, period. Absolutely. And you are a slave no matter what. That's a non-option. Just who you're gonna serve. Excellent point. Anyone else? Okay. Any questions on the pool? Sure.
Okay, all the water going in, does the water go out?
Right now?
And I'm here, or there, and it's not.
Back up, they pull the plug from.
What happens today is the water comes down from the Gihon Spring, and Israel is very aggressively getting all of the water they can get. They take that water and it goes into their water system. They desalinate water. They take water, and if they get some that's kind of dirty, they have one section of water they use for irrigation, another section they use for drinking. They are hoarders with their water. And even, you remember I showed you the pictures of En-Gedi, where David had the spring, that waterfall coming down, the pool of En-Gedi. As that comes down into a pool, the river pool goes around to the left, and it just stops. There's a pipe that's pulling in all of that water and bringing it to Jerusalem. They take all the water they can. Yeah.
They got water treatment that's up there too.
Yes, that's where it all goes. But it is, it's hard because there is not a lot of water. It is desert area. So that's now. Then for a pool to be a properly Jewish ritual cleansing bath, it had to have an outlet. So that water, when it came into this area, it would have had an outlet at some place so it could keep on going as it filled up.
That pool's no longer there, right? You just showed us the steps.
That's right. Pool is no longer where that water comes in now. It comes through Gihon Springs. It's still coming through Hezekiah's tunnel. But as it comes through here, there's a pipe. They take it. So that's all Israel's water. They drink, we were drinking it. So, but yeah, I wonder the same, the waters that pass through has got to go somewhere. And eventually it would head on down and hit into the Jordan and go to the Dead Sea. And then it just evaporates and it stays in the Dead Sea, or they desalinate it.
But it's not like our water today.
That was good. The En-Gedi, that water was so good. I wasn't supposed to drink it, but we're drinking it. I drank it. So. Anything else? This was good. Next week, we're going to see, it makes, to me, it's exciting when I was going over this. We're going to see the wall, not the gates, but the walls of the city, the east, We'll look at the east wall, south wall, and just a hair around the west wall. We're not gonna get to the main west wall yet. We're gonna see some of the walls of the city, and that'll be next week. Okay, I think we'll hear something say, recording stopped.